And welcome back to yet another episode of the Outside 50 podcast presented by US Footy News. I'm your host, Rick Shaibani, and alongside me is my co host, Wayne Kraska.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Kras. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully our audience is doing the same. And today we have a guest from the Austin Crows, one of the best clubs in the country, Ben Martinez. How you doing, Ben?
Good evening, gentlemen. Doing very well. Thank you for the opportunity to come on tonight.
Yeah, I'm just glad we could get it done. Last time we had some technical issues.
I had some technical issues, yes, but we're finally here, and yeah, great to be part of it. And like I've said before, great work that you're both doing to help promote the game of footy here in the US. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Ben, and we really appreciate some of the kudos and everyone who seems to come on seems to enjoy it, and also we've had a little bit of feedback, not only from here but from around the world actually. So it's fun. So we're going to keep going. So.
Brilliant. No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Like Kraz said, we're developing a decent following on both sides of the Pacific, and we're getting the download count up every episode these days. So it's exciting. And you've been working with Tara Silky, who was one of our most recent guests on the social media front with the USAFL. Talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. You have the new page on LinkedIn, and you're also doing some great stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Tara and I got together a few months ago now. Sort of came together and really put our heads together around what we can do to help not just unite the league and have the clubs collaborating more, but how we can grow exposure of it and really take the game to the next level in terms of introducing it to people that don't know about the game and that would like to be part of it. So uh, we put together a plan that we presented to the USAFL in terms of marketing, sponsorship development, digital transformation, just how we can really unite and connect and improve communication around the league. And from there, it really went from kind of your brainstorming and your whiteboarding, if you like, to actually putting it into reality. And that's what we've been doing now. Like as you mentioned, we created the LinkedIn group, which we're seeing a really good increase in following and engagement, and just in terms of not just being able to connect with Australians. There's a large Australian community out there. We're getting help from Darren Green, who you've interviewed on a previous episode, who is so well connected in the Australian community here in America. And we've been able to engage with that community, really bring them involved in exposing the game to them a lot more, and what the league is doing. And I believe from that, what Tara and I really want to achieve is where we get a lot more engagement, involvement, whether it be from local businesses, Australian-owned companies that have locations here, or and also Americans that want to participate or be involved in a new sport. I think there's a huge opportunity here, and I really feel that you almost feel like a bit of a pioneer, right? You feel like you're a part of something amazing, and together we can help this grow. So with Tara's passion and her vision, and with having people like Darren Green on board, I really feel that we've got a great team, and we're always looking to have other passionate people on board as well who share that vision as well, and who would like to see the game grow. And I think from there it promises to be an exciting year and years to come.
Yeah, Ben, it's interesting that you use the word pioneer. I couldn't believe that after 20 years here, um, what me and Rick are doing is somewhat of a pioneer focus as well. They're doing something completely different after all this time. But you're right in that sense that people who are involved in sport here, even after all this time, are still pioneers of the sport. Because we have such low participation rates in comparison to some other mainstream sports here in the country, well, not only mainstream sports, but other imported sports from other countries, we are still, we still have to say that we're in the growing phase. So, and I think a lot of the players don't actually realise that as much as they probably should.
Mm.
Let me move on to something we mentioned with Tara on a podcast. Something that you guys are doing, and you mentioned that about sponsorship. The sponsorship that's been around the USAFL has been great. Certainly, I can mention Coopers as one of the most important sponsors that the USAFL have had, and have been fantastic. What sort of level of sponsorship? And I'm not going to want you to put a finger on numbers and things like that, but what sort of top level corporate partners are you looking at?
We're really looking. It's a great question, because we're really looking at a very broad range of not just company sizes, but industry verticals as well, and getting involved with organizations that stretch not just from a regional perspective, but also potentially have a breadth back into Australia. I mentioned the digital transformation bit, and a part of that is the app. So creation of a league app. So as part of that, we'd love the opportunity to work with companies that are innovative and that would love to be a part of that venture, or would love to market their company on that. So we're kind of looking, from what we're looking at, companies that have a potential reach to Australia, companies that are looking to grow in the APAC region, and also companies here in the United States that really would love to be part of a unique sport, and a sport that is really just on the rise in terms of its growth and appeal there. So certainly it's opening up the possibilities to a wide variety, from tech to fitness and wellness, through to, like you mentioned, in the food and beverage market as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of untapped potential there and in all those arenas. And I think with the LinkedIn initiative that you guys are doing, it's kind of, it's a great conduit for those types of relationships, but it's kind of a really good way to expose people to, a lot of people don't know that the USAFL is a nonprofit and all the clubs in the USAFL are nonprofits. So it's kind of a unique perspective and a great way to increase awareness about the game in the US, reach out to Aussie-owned businesses, whether they're, massive corporate entities like Qantas or Coopers, or if they're just, smaller things. And I think it's great that you guys are kind of spearheading that initiative.
Agreed. And I think, just to add to that, Rick, I think what that opens, this could be bigger than football, right? You sort of think about this, and you're like, okay, all of a sudden we can create a system where, we could attract Australians that may be similar to my story, that want to come over here, and similar to a lot of stories, that want to come over here and play footy and work for an organization here in the US, and then vice versa. Americans that would like to go and work for an Australian company. So we have the potential to make this bigger than footy.
Absolutely. And of course, Tara had the Friends of Footy Fire Relief thing on Instagram. That was a phenomenal initiative. And I was really pleased that something like that kind of kicked off here in the US. I mean, I know individual clubs did stuff like that, but that was really phenomenal. And since you alluded to your story and how you're, helping grow the game here in the US, we might as well kind of touch on that for a little bit. Of course, you're in a unique position since you're a dual citizen, born here, raised over in Perth. And can you tell us a little bit about how that background kind of uniquely suits you to help identify the areas of growth in the US that can be tackled?
Certainly. So yeah, thank you for for asking that. I think with my situation, I've played footy all my life. Since a little kid, kicking the ball with my cousins and that in the in the front yard as a 4 or 5 year old. I don't know if the kick's gotten better, But it's the passion for the game is there. I don't, you could probably ask a few of the Crows boys. They'll probably tell you that the kick needs some improvement, but I think it's getting there. But no, I fell in love with the game as a kid, and you know, sat that Saturday mornings, Tuesday, Thursday night trainings. It's in your blood, and you just got that feeling whenever footy season was back on. Just that excitement. Yeah, being a dual citizen and growing up playing the game, it really, and being so passionate about the game, uh, has given me not only the experience I've had back home, being part of a great club back home, but also, now being part of an amazing club here in Austin, and a great culture, and just seeing the opportunity here. And it's made me proud of my American heritage, so to speak, but seeing the potential for the game here, seeing when I'm watching guys like Ben Carpenter, as Rick and I were talking about before this podcast, seeing guys like that just wow you. They love the game. We've got some great Americans that play here in Austin that just inspire you, and they're great guys to be around. And whenever I see anything about Team USA here, it's kind of this feeling you get where I just anything that I can do to help the sport not only flourish here, but also help support the Americans here, and just help them take up the game, love the game, and excel at it. I think it's an amazing feeling. And so, yeah, I'm very fortunate to have that, and very fortunate to be part of that.
Awesome. And to what age did you continue to play in Australia before you actually moved over here permanently?
I continued to play right up until, so from juniors all the way up till 30 actually. So yeah, after moving back, I had a few years off. Getting settled into Austin life and settled into the States. Literally packed a couple of suitcases and made the move. So I didn't feel that I was quite ready to do that and play, but once I went down to my first training session, I never looked back, and I love seeing that same feeling that other players get when they come down and see the game for the first time.
Yeah, and you just so happen to be seeing it 21 hours from home, so it's got to be it's got to be a
Exactly.
great feeling. So
It is. It is a great feeling. It's an amazing feeling. It's something as well, guys, that I love sharing with back home. I love sharing with my old team and old teammates, and just friends and family back home about how amazing the game is here, and just how phenomenal the culture is here around all the clubs. I really I really try to be an advocate and champion of it every chance I get, so that they can get exposed to that.
absolutely, and it's just I felt the same way kind of when I was in Australia playing down in Melbourne. Like so many people have no idea about the USAFL or how big it is or how seriously we take it. So it's always fun to be able to just uh, inform people and educate people about that we do play this crazy Aussie sport outside of Australia. So it's the more people know about that, the better.
I agree, and I can't tell you how many Austin Crow shirts I've sent over for Christmas presents. So trust me, they know about it. So
You have your own producer there and stockpile by the sounds of it,
that's it. That's it. The Eddie Maguire of the Austin Crows, making sure that it's marketed all back home. So
So how many years have you been at the Crows now, Ben?
I've been at the Crows since 2017 now. So this will be my fourth season.
Okay, so a couple of successful years, yeah.
Certainly,
Um,
certainly, very yeah. A few successes along the way, that's for sure. So it's been a great experience.
Just a
on
few.
on that, what is the challenge when it gets around to nationals times with players competing for spots on the number one team there in Austin?
It's a great question. I think one of the things that I've noticed about the Crows, and I knew this the day I walked in, the first training session I had, is that we've got a phenomenal group. From Division One down to the reserves, and every player there, I think, is just so proud to wear the shirt. We've got a brotherhood as such, and I think that you know that there's going to be times that you may not get to play, and when nationals comes up, that, but at the same time, we're all in that together. It's a journey that we're all on, and I really feel that we understand that, and I think that's been a big contributor to our success.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to say because speaking to Tommy Ellis recently about the revolution, and Tommy obviously came off a very, very successful period of the Denver Bulldogs who had that brotherhood mentality and were so successful year after year after year. And Tommy trying to instill that brotherhood within the USAFL revolution team, as probably Christina Licata is trying to do in the freedom as a maybe sisterhood, probably a better term for her. But that connection that the players get is, and I think anyone who's played competitive Aussie rules back in Australia or here knows that's invaluable to success. To have your mates look out for you both on and off the field, and be responsible to each other, and committed to each other. That's sort of like gold.
It really is. It can mean the difference between going into a game with confidence, and when the chips are down, it can be the difference that rises you up. And I often say that to my teammates, and it's something that I've been taught from some great mentors. You that extra voice that you can provide can mean all the difference. It doesn't need to be kicking the winning goal or getting 30 possessions in a game, or even being the best player on the field. It can just be that extra bit of support that you give to someone that can make all the difference. So I think that's such a big part of our culture here at Austin.
I love the one percenters, mate. Believe me, I'm a one percenter fan from way back. The
Yeah,
little things
yeah,
count, and they all add up.
yeah.
So tell us about the coaching environment there. Obviously, the success the Austin team have had over the last couple of years, and you could probably refresh our memories on how many Div1 premierships you've had. But tell us a little bit about the support staff and the coaching panel there in Austin.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate here in Austin to have, like I've said, we've got an amazing culture, but the leadership that we have, everyone's a potential leader, right? Everyone plays that leadership role, but in terms of coaching, it's just phenomenal. With Stefan Barr is one of the most, just not just a great mate, but he's such a great mentor to me, and he's played such a role in helping me develop, not just as a footballer, but as a person as well, and evolving as a person. And everyone from Kenrick Tyrell, who's one of the best footballers, honestly, that I've ever had the pleasure of playing alongside and training with. I certainly don't want to get in his way at training. Let me tell you, you almost want to just clear the goal square a little and let him do his thing. But we've just got you know Benny May, and we've right through to Jake Ryan, who came to us last year. Just some of the most amazing minds, but also some of the most motivational leaders. And we've had that through the years. We've got Grant Campbell as well, who's a Crows legend, and you only need to see the passion and fight in his eyes, even at training, and it gets you revved up. And that's one thing I'm grateful for in this club. So
Yeah, you certainly have a solid group of Aussies over the years, as a lot of Texas teams here. So explain maybe to our listeners, especially the ones back in Australia, why is Texas such a hotbed for Australians?
it's a great question. I think here I remember personally when I was at Telstra in Perth, and I was saying I was going to move to Austin. I had a few friends go, "What, Austin? What's in Austin?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Austin, Texas." And they're like, "What are you gonna?" So you had to explain it. And I think Austin has a very unique position in that, you know, with the tech growth, you know, we're getting a lot of people from San Francisco coming, but we're also getting a lot of people from Australia from the tech sector who are wanting to come over here and be part of that scene here in Austin. And I think Austin's in a very unique position with that. You know, it's a city that doesn't necessarily feel like a big, you know, like an LA or a San Fran or a Chicago or a New York. So I think Austin has a big advantage there. Same thing with Houston, right? I think Houston's done very well with their alliances with, you know, their sister city, and just with their you know, strategic partnerships that they've got back in Australia, and likewise with Dallas being a hub.
Yeah, definitely. I think all three of those areas are just growing so fast, particularly in the last decade or so. And whether it's, tech companies in Austin or relocating to Austin, or international workers coming in to Houston, you've got oil companies there. You've got a lot of kind of niche industries, and you're bound to get kind of a motley crew of international people, and of course there are going to be plenty of Australians in there too. So it's a
Mm.
unique spot. And again, I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily assume that, a lot of Aussies will be gravitating towards those cities, but there's definitely a good sized community. And of course, the Crows are a huge part of that. So
Yeah, very true. And keep in mind as well with Austin, it's in a very unique position. I was thinking about this earlier, where we don't have a professional sports team here.
that's true.
We will shortly with the MLS team, but you know, we really don't have. We're not like an LA or, like I said, a Chicago or anywhere. So we're in a unique position there, where really, you know, it's UT football, right? So I think there's a massive opportunity there, and yeah, I think we're seeing that with the amount of, especially with the amount of interest we get from new American players.
Yeah, so touching on the college scene just for a second, it's in the news huge at the moment, obviously, with the cancellation of the NCAA events this for the rest of the foreseeable future. What is the college scene like in participation or in numbers of students there in the Austin area?
It's fairly good. I would say that we've had, you know, we've got a small number of, certainly of UT uh, graduates that are playing, and that have been part of the club. I think that is a huge recruitment opportunity for the future. I think that, you know, as part of that, it would, you know, be phenomenal to, I think, introduce the game to more UT students, especially training so close to their campus, and you know, them being exposed to, potentially exposed to our games, you know, a lot more easily logistically. So yeah, I think we've certainly got a number of them there, and I think there's a future opportunity there. Great point.
Yeah, and of course, Austin is big enough where you've got, Texas State is right down the road. You've got a few private schools there, I believe, as well.
Mhm.
And particularly, like, even with training and hosting games in Austin, like, I know for a fact that all the suburbs are growing almost as fast as Austin itself. So there's definitely some great opportunities there, whether it's with college students or new arrivals from interstate and elsewhere in the US. It's definitely a big part of the ongoing recruitment process. And kind of going off what you were saying about having a good relationship with UT students and getting some good recruits there. We recently talked to Dallas McCulloch at Hawaii not that long ago, and he's a grad student over there, so he's been doing a lot of really good stuff in terms of getting students involved or registering as like an official student organization with the university. So there's a lot of potential there, and it's good to see people getting on board with that.
I agree, and I've seen other clubs do it around the country really well, where they're getting the youth involved as well. You know, I mean, you just, it it reminds you of back home when you see clubs doing so well with the youth, and seeing young kids getting a Sharon in their hands and kicking around. It's, you're kind of seeing this dream come to a reality. So
Yeah, I'll actually share a brief story about over in LA. We had a college kid. He's been coming to trainings and to games the last couple of years. A guy named Dave Ulfelder. He's just a small town Colorado kid who was studying engineering up at Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo. 2-3 hours up the coast from LA. And yeah, it was awesome because he had always been fascinated by footy. By his own admission, he's always been to the weird sports, the niche sports that you don't see on TV in the U.S. And even though he played soccer growing up. So he came on really quick. Unfortunately, had a knee injury and missed most of last season, but he's always been looking forward to coming back. And I think he has family down here, and he also had an internship in LA briefly. So it's been awesome to have him involved, even if it's just for sometimes half a season because of school. But yeah, you never know what might happen when you recruit students. I know sometimes the tendency for USAFL clubs is to not do that because, students are transient. They might be gone in 4 years. Who knows? They might not want to continue playing footy. They might not want to get hurt. It can definitely be a bit of a mixed bag in terms of actually being proactive and recruiting the uni student population, but it can definitely reap some rewards.
Hmm. Couldn't agree more there. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, if you're not recruiting him for your own team there, Rick, getting him to play with some other team on the other side of the country at some stage of their lifespan when they pick up the game, when they move around like they normally do after college. So, it's part of what we talked about earlier, being a pioneer of the sport. Don't pigeonhole your recruiting into one particular area, and go after a broad spectrum. And it will obviously only help your club, maybe for a short term, but it will help the sport in general. There in Texas, Ben, can we ask? Well, I presume you've got some reasonably good facilities, considering the weather is reasonably warm most of the year. But the travel from Texans, from where you are in Austin to Dallas or to Houston, the other Texas teams, what is that like?
I mean, besides the traffic, it's not not too bad. But I was just telling Rick, but Rick, I shouldn't complain to Rick about traffic from a don't never
Hey,
complain about traffic to a
hey, between
Californian. So
between Rick's LA and Atlanta, for me, we have the traffic covered. Believe me, I can tell you.
I was gonna say you both can tell me that, yeah, that's cute. Your traffic issues are a real issue. No, that's a great question though. The way that we travel, I think is really well planned out. Whether it be players carpooling or whether it be getting a bus to games. It's very fortunate that we have that. It's a being able to go to Dallas within a few hours, being able to go to Houston in a few hours, and I think it's also great for them. It's also really good to get their involvement and seeing how their clubs are growing as well. So very fortunate to that, and also for reasonably close to other locations as well. Right, it's pretty easy to get to Denver. When we have our game against them. So yeah, it's a great central location there. So travel's not really too much of an issue.
Just going back to the history of the club a little bit, I'm not too sure if you're how aware of it you are. I had a feeling that the Austin club was started basically by Grant Campbell, was it, who had played at Dallas for many, many years?
Yes, I mentioned, yeah, Cambo. Yeah, he's definitely
Yep.
a legend of the club, and yeah, he's been there since the beginning. So yeah.
And what year was that?
That was, well, I mean, we give him a lot of stick about the time, the time changes, but no, look, he's been around since day one. So yeah, yeah, he's definitely a club legend.
Since the Stone Age, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I remember playing against him when he was playing with Dallas, so we go back a few
Okay.
years. So.
Yeah, I want to be kind there, but yeah, he's certainly no, look, I mean, as I mentioned to you, he's a great leader, and he's someone that just you can't help but just get revved up and just I mean, I already go in focused into a game, but when you've got him revving you up and just sharing his experience and wisdom, you can't help but feel like you can take anything on, and he's just an amazing leader.
So what does let's touch on 2020. We've got some regionals there in Texas this year in Dallas, Central Region. So that's not too far a travel. What other else is on the schedule for Austin this year?
Yeah, so at the moment we're releasing we'll be releasing the schedule shortly. I personally haven't seen it, but we'll be having our Texas Cup rounds, I would imagine, against against Dallas and Houston, where we do our round robin, and then we'll have a game in September against Denver.
Nice. And are you guys doing anything special for Anzac Day? Either a game or, a pub night or anything to get the community around it?
Haven't got anything planned at the moment, but that's certainly something that we tend to work out. Last year we actually went to Colombia, which was a
Right.
great experience for the boys. So it would be hopefully we can work out something around that and do something in the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. A colleague of mine at World Footy News, Wesley Hull, good mate of mine, I remember him writing about that and how it was like the North American Bulldogs and the South American Bulldogs, and that's got to be a hell of an experience. Like, I can only imagine people whose minds are spinning. Like, whoa! Not only do they have footy in Texas, but they have it in Colombia. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing experience. I remember seeing the photos, and hopefully, you guys can do that again sometime in the future.
Yeah, Rick, and I mean, how amazing would that be to be able to have that opportunity for the LA team, or for a team in Chicago or a team in New York, for those teams to be able to go and play, not just teams in South America, but teams in Europe,
Mm,
where we can get it. I mean, obviously currently that's a bit challenging given everything that's going on, but that would be an amazing you know achievement. So
definitely. And when we talked to Tommy Ellis, the Revos coach, a while back, he was really passionate about stuff like that. Obviously, the Revos are going to be, or well, a part of the Revos are going to be doing the Croatia trip later this year, right before the IC. The Freedom are going to be going to England in 2021, I believe, and we've got a few other options that are potentially on the table for future international tournaments. I mean, obviously Austin and Bogota was kind of a one-off, but tours of other countries or things like that. Revos went to Ireland a couple years ago as well. I think that's a huge development in international footy, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, international traveling teams is not a new thing, believe it or not. So, one of the first was a team out of Reading, which is about 60 miles out of London, the Reading Kangaroos, who came down and played in Atlanta in 2005, so 15 years ago. So, it has happened before. And the Atlanta team did go and return the trip in 2006 with a handful of players, but it hasn't until we saw Bogota, Colombia come up on the radar. It hasn't really resurfaced, but and like Ben says, it might be on a little bit of hold at the moment, given world news. But it's amazing how probably now the internet connects us all so quickly, and these sort of things can come together.
it really does. I mean, it would be amazing to see, like I said earlier, having American players able to go and play in Australia, or open up the opportunity for European players to come here and play in the USAFL, and then also helps the development of Team USA. It's going to make them more competitive, and I think it's just going to help their preparation when they go to the International Cup, and hopefully lead to a successful era for that team.
So speaking about the International Cup, which is still scheduled as per USAFL had put out a recent communique about nothing has changed quite yet. How many players, representative players, does the Austin Crows have on the US Revolution team?
We had three go to the combine, so we got Sam Gigliotti that's actually on that list, as well as Daniel Brown, and they just they just did phenomenal. Avram, who's one of our other American players, new to the game as well. I mean, I remember when he first came down to training. Those guys are just so amazing as players. How well they've taken up the game. They're not just phenomenal blokes, but on and off the field. But I just know that they have a real passion for playing the game and representing their country. So I'm excited by what they're going to be able to do. Then obviously we've got Ben Carpenter, who's just a phenomenal athlete. Certainly one of the best footy players. You think he's been playing the game for 20 years, so he's one of the best that I've had the pleasure of playing alongside. But I'm really excited to see what he does. And anytime he's on the field, something amazing is going to happen. So I'm really excited to see what he does this year for the team. And I think we've got some really good guys as well that are part of that are going to bring some really good run into that midfield.
Sounds terrific. Sounds terrific. I guess there's a fairly good representation from from a couple of the Texas teams, from what I hear too. So, the first game, I know you were talking about the round robin tournaments with Houston and Dallas. When is the expected? I know you hadn't released your schedule, but when does that normally kick off?
We normally kick that off in May, at the start of May. So it'll be, and we last year we actually had the AFLX tournament in Houston. That was a great tournament to participate in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now. There's the possibility that for maybe one Texas Cup round in May, and then leading up to the Central Regionals in Dallas. So that would that would be how I would see it. And then usually we would then do a couple more Texas Cup rounds, give our reserves team as well a run up against Dallas and Oklahoma. That's what we did last year. So it'd be interesting to see what we put together this year.
Yeah, and I assume you guys are still going to try to do the full Div 1 and Div 4 reserve sides for both regionals and nationals this year, or what's the plan?
I would hope so. I've got I didn't get to play I didn't get to go to nationals last year, so I've got some revenge just just for the reserves boys. We want to get that cup. But yes, I would envision that the Div 1 and the Div 4, and I think that's honestly such a great structure. I think last year, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. But I thought the way that they had that model and that tournament really did allow some of the other clubs as well to excel. And you're seeing that, right, with some of the results there. You're seeing some teams start to grow in terms of their performances, and I think it's just great to see that even balance across a competition.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting, as we talked about before. The San Diego Nationals a couple of years ago was the biggest on record, and I would expect the numbers to be pretty similar. And I just wonder if we get to the stage, certainly with a big club like Austin and Denver and a couple of the others on the West Coast, if there's maybe actually a chance that we could have an All-American division at nationals, and that's something I've actually spoken a little bit with Tommy Ellis, he has tweaked his ears a little bit about that, and that's for the greater development of the American players to be able to play in their own division, and I'm a bit of an outside the box sort of thing. I really believe that winning a Divi 1 final with a totally American team would be the ultimate and would be the number one prize for any team in the country for all time. So to be able the first time to do that, either legitimately or as a sanctioned representative team of just not using any Australians. So, but we could start with a 12-a-side division, and have 4 or 5 teams maybe made up of reserves players, and that would be really fun, I think.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think with the amount of registered players that we have on our list, and the split, it's roughly a 50-50 American Australian split. I think that would be an amazing thing for a lot of those American players to not just get out there and play more games, but also just showcase their ability and develop, which is as you said, is what we want. That can only benefit the game overall. So
There you go.
Pregnant pause.
And before we go here, Ben, you have the Facebook page or Facebook group, I should say, that you run, which is supporters of Australian football in the US. If you want to give that a little plug, real quick.
Yeah, look, thank you. So yeah, actually run in conjunction with Darren Green, who runs that as well. So yeah, look, all Australia, not just Australians, but anyone that's a fan of this great game, that's done so much for me personally, and has done so much for so many. You know, please join, be part of it. Be part of the community, and yeah, together we can really grow this game and grow the community as well across the board. So yeah.
Fantastic. And listeners can look for links to the USAFL LinkedIn page and the supporters AFL supporters page will be in the show notes if you wanted to scroll or swipe or whatever you do these days. Have a look for it there, and certainly on the US Footy News social media, we'll share those links as well after this podcast is released. So, Ben, fantastic to talk to you over there in Texas. I'm sure the sun is shining as it always does in Texas, and looking forward to a great season. And congratulations on what you're doing with Tara as well, and with Darren Green to help improve and bolster the support of footy here in the US, not only through the USAFL but just in general with teams that you do support and help out with the bushfire relief thing. It's all been fantastic, and it's been a real pleasure to connect with you guys and have you on.
Likewise, gentlemen. Thank you for this experience, and looking forward to supporting you along many more podcasts. So thank you for having me part of it.
Cheers, Ben. All the best.
Good luck, Ben.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Outside 50 is brought to you with the help of Play Aussie USA. Play Aussie is the only place in the USA you can buy the famous Sheeran football, a proud sponsor of the USAFL. Visit them at playaussie.com.